Let's head down to South Africa, where the President, Cyril Ramaphosa, has described the violence currently rocking the country as, quote, opportunity acts of criminality, end of quote. But while the crisis may have its roots in support of the jailed former President Jacob Zuma, the scale of the outbreak has also been linked to years of poor government services and a record unemployment, especially among the blacks. 2 days ago, the World Bank fired a warning shot at South Africa and asked the country to use its current socio-economic crisis very well because it's an inflection point. Else, the country risks suffering and another lost decade. Let's go down to Cape Town now for updates on the latest unrest as Peter Major, Director of Mining at Mergence Corporate Solutions, joins me via WebEx. Great to have you here, Peter. Good evening. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Bosan. Good to be with you.
Thank you. It's good to have you on the show tonight. Where are we tonight on the unrest taking place in South Africa?
I think we're a little bit better than we were last night. Last night was very bad. The night before was very bad. So I think tonight is just bad because finally the police and some of the army are starting to be mobilized to contain this. So you can't vandalize, you can't steal, vandalize, and burn down a giant shopping mall each night, the same mall. So you have to go somewhere else. Like a parasite that's killed its host, it's got to go somewhere else. So slowly we're starting to constrain all these rioters. And so they're running out of new hosts that they're able to get to easily. The first few days, they could get anywhere they wanted very easily with no resistance whatsoever. So we're a little bit better tonight than the last 2 nights. And let's hope the trend is our friend, that the trend improves all night and tomorrow and the next day.
Is this violent unrest and looting and arson all about the jailing of the former President Jacob Zuma, or are there other underlying issues at play?
There are so many underlying issues, Bosan, and we've had premieres of this bad movie for more than a decade now. We've had premieres and excerpts of what's going to happen here for at least the last 15 years. And so they've been preparing for it, what we call service delivery protests, what we call the construction mafia, when they march onto a construction site or a mining site and they demand that all services and expenses and expenditures be put through them and their cronies. And so the unions have been promoting this, the government's been promoting this for the last 25 years, and it's been okay to do it. It's been more and more accepted. So this wasn't powder keg. There's a lot of reasons for it. Joblessness, massive corruption on top. And so when the top people have hollowed out institutions and the bottom people are poorer than ever, but now they have no opportunities as well. It didn't need anything more than Mr. Zuma going to jail to set it off.
But Peter, what are you learning from your business executive community? You're an executive at Mergence. What are you learning from businessmen on the ground, investors, about the immediate to medium-term future of the South African economy based on where we are tonight?
Bosan, I've never seen it more depressing, more negative. I've never seen businessmen here so afraid and so clueless what could be happening in the future. If this was a meteorite that hit the place, if it was a flood, within hours, people are putting a plan together and they know how to address it. But you don't know how to address this because it's unconstrained. It knows no bounds. You don't know, is this a bubble that's just going to pop up somewhere else? This thing has a life. And we don't know how big the life is. We don't know if it's going to spread or if we can contain it. Is it going to pop up somewhere else? We've had lots of little previews of this, and we were worried that it could escalate. But this is so large, and it's a human parasite. So, yeah, nobody knows how to plan. They really don't know how to plan going forward for the next week, let alone the next month.
But are there serious concerns, Pete, on how this unrest and its economic implications in South Africa are being watched by your neighbors within the Southern African community and what it could mean for them? Because South Africa in flames or very unsettled. There's a whole lot of reverberation across the southern African part of the continent.
Yes, South Africa's neighbors have good reason to be concerned because whoever was running South Africa for the last 150 years it was still a powerhouse. Whoever ran this country, it was a powerhouse. And it had 85% of the continent's electricity. It had 50% of the continent's railroads. It had 60% of the continent's economy. And yeah, so when the giant, the leader, be he good or bad, when the leader is faltering, when he's falling down, when he's being attacked, it's a huge worry. And I think of all the links, economic trade with all of Southern Africa that goes through South Africa. They are very scared. You know, when South Africa is worried about feeding itself, when its main artery from Durban to Joburg is severed, you can imagine the fright of all the countries that depend on us for supplies, foods, medical, fuel. Southern Africa is probably more petrified now than ever, by far, in its history, in hundreds of years.
Here we are right in the middle of the third wave, as it were, for the vaccinations that the program that the government has put on with these hundreds of folks that you can see in some of those images on television moving all around. Of course, there is nothing like social distancing when folks are doing violence and looting, by the way. So, do you think they will be able to make much progress? Of course, we're now under lockdown level 4, and we're looking at this kind of very grim images right now of folks, hundreds of thousands, milling around each other. How worse do you think the whole virus pandemic will get? We are now at the second half of the year. What's your outlook?
We're going to have a massive spread, Bosan. If you look at how we were battling with our lockdowns to contain this virus, even with level 3 and 4 lockdowns, the virus was going rampant. Now, there's virtually no lockdowns where all this unrest is going. And you wonder, what does it take to have a military lockdown, a military curfew where nobody is allowed out at 9 o'clock? And we were kind of obeying that a year ago, but this is a complete breakdown of almost any law and order. And we got a 100,000 man army, and we can't find 20,000 of them. But you're right, the virus, it doesn't know or care what's going on. It spreads as easily if people are happy, sad, if people are fighting. It just spreads when people congregate. And yes, we destroyed a lot of hospitals, a lot of clinics, pharmacies. So this has put us probably irreparably back as far as constraining the virus. The virus is probably literally unconstrained in South Africa today.
We thank you for your time this evening, and we wish you all the best in South Africa out of the current situation there. Do stay safe. Peter Major, thank you so much. Director Mining at Mergence Corporate Solutions. Thank you. We appreciate it.